Hey everybody, welcome to Kimmel's Irish Pub. A little bit of a different opening here. Just got done having a discussion with my wife. You might have seen her as my guest star. So she helps me out with a lot of different advice, and I've really started to spice up my videos a little bit, working on another intro and things like that. So getting into the post-editing a little bit, which is fun. I really enjoy doing this. It feels like I have somebody watching the movie with me, so that's always fun because, as you see, if you've watched any of my 150 videos, I'm usually by myself, so you are my friends. Thank you, and I get to share my experience with you, and I do enjoy it a lot. So, with that said, I started thinking, and if you saw my other video, they don't go in succession, so I don't know which one you saw last, but I was thinking about buying video editing software, like real stuff, spending some money to do it. Although I got pretty good at what I was doing, which is good. But now I'm thinking, from the advice of my wife, that's where she comes in, maybe I should buy a new camera. I think this camera, I bought when my daughter was born, the day she was born. She's 9 years old now. She'll be 10 in June. And so this was the camera I ran out the day she was born so I could videotape everything. And I still have this camera. So it's a little, as my wife says, antiquated. I Googled it. I looked it up. I know what that means. Feel free to Google it yourself. But I might agree with her. So I don't know. I do use the other camera for fantasy football, but the bar, it just doesn't have a remote. So I'm debating. If you want to drop me a comment, let me know what you think. That would be great. I'd appreciate it. But anyway, let's talk about tonight's movie review. Before I keep going down here, Tonya. So the Tonya Harding movie. Pretty excited about this. I'm interested if you weren't around or you didn't know about the Tonya Harding thing and the Nancy Kerrigan, where Tonya Harding took out Nancy Kerrigan. They were both battling to be the top female skater, and that's what happened. There was a big conspiracy or a big issue where they had Nancy Kerrigan, taken out so Tonya Harding could win. But this is starring Margaret Robbie in it. I'm not sure what else is in it. I didn't read anything or look at the numbers. I got more interested in telling you about setting up the camera and stuff like that. So I will start watching it and do a check-in. And on my check-in, I'll give you some numbers. So be back in a little bit. Hey everybody, I want to do a quick check-in here. Tonya, 52 minutes and 10 seconds. It's a 2-hour movie, an hour and 59 minutes. But so far so good. It's interesting. First of all, I remember this. I remember the whole, debacle, the Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan thing and the takeout and everything like that. And I think, for the most part, I mean, obviously I was much younger. This happened a while ago. You just remember it happening and thinking how bad Tonya Harding was. And, at that point, when I was a kid, who cared, you know what I mean? And we didn't have the internet to research everything, and I sure as heck wasn't going to watch the news and learn more about it. But watching this, and I think it's more of a mockumentary. So it's all done with sarcasm and jokes and things like that, but it's based on her interview, Tonya Harding's, and her husband, who becomes her ex-husband's interview, and this is all based on everything that they've told, but they make it humorous, which is great. So, to be honest with you, I'm not sure how much of it is really true and how much isn't. So that would be interesting to find out. But pretty much what you're learning is she was a very gifted skater from the wrong side of the track. So she even calls herself, a redneck. She was poor. She had a poor upbringing. Her dad left them early on. Her mother was very abusive and alcoholic. Pushed her to be a good skater, but abusive, physically abusive. And then her first boyfriend, who becomes her husband, who was the interview, he is also physically abusive with her. So she's taken out of school so she can skate full time, and that's all she has. But she does become, at this point in the movie, the first woman skater to ever do a triple axel, which is an amazing accomplishment. But she eventually goes to the Olympics and comes in fourth place. And at this point, the Olympics were every 4 years, so she's pretty much done skating. and becomes a waitress. But they announced that the Olympics are now going to be every 2 years. So she looks like she's going to be able to go back, and her old coach has come back. But it's really about, how she got to where she was, and her upbringing, and it hasn't gotten to the part that the knee bashing part yet. But they're really building up how Tonya Harding became Tonya Harding, and you really feel bad, like you can't stand to see people being abused, especially children, and then wives or girlfriends being abused by men. That's just cowardly, and there's no call for it, but and that's pretty much portrayed in this movie. Again, I don't know how much is true, but in any life, nobody should be physically abused in any way, but especially physically. Okay, enough about that. But so you can see that's what they're building up here, is how Tonya Harding, led her to do what maybe she ultimately does, or maybe doesn't. I don't even know. I won't spoil it for you, but I'm giving you a little bit more of the synopsis. So far, phenomenal. Margaret Robbie. Oh, one real quick thing. Oh, two real quick things. Sorry. Soundtrack is incredible. I'm loving the soundtrack. And also the skating. I mean, obviously the skating is going to be good. They're Olympic skaters. But I'm not sure how they do it. Because, Margaret Robbie is Tonya Harding. And, normally when people do these kinds of things, you see her, she skates out in the ice, and then you can't tell. But, they do such a good job of, showing her face as she's going through all these tricks and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting to see how far we've come, instead of, somebody in a blonde wig, doing all these things, and you can obviously tell. It's hard to tell in this, so I thought that was an interesting fact. So, keep going here a little bit, and I'll check back in maybe again, or see you at the credits. See ya. Hey everybody, we're at the credits of I, Tonya, and it has just ended. It's only one check-in here, but very entertaining movie. I love what they did here. Again, I was alive. This was the 1994 Olympics. Is around when all this happened, and leading up to the 1994 Olympics. That's when they were supposed to be in the Olympics together, Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. So think about where you were at that time. I don't know how old you are, but for me, I was a teenager. Maybe a little bit younger as this happened. So it brings back a lot of memories, and as I had mentioned before, I didn't know a lot about it. I just knew what had happened. You just assumed Tonya Harding had put a hit out on Nancy Kerrigan so that she could win the gold medal, right? But this is the whole Tonya Harding side of the story. So real quick, I promised you numbers, I didn't give them to you before. 7.7 from IMDb, 89% for the critics and the users or the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. So they liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. I'm going to throw an 8 out there. It was really good. Again, they took it from Tonya's side. Allison Janney plays Tonya's mom, and she was phenomenal. I don't know how they determine, best supporting actor or actresses and everything like that. I thought she did a great job in the best supporting actress type role. So I don't know if she'll be up for anything or anything along those lines, but she did a really good job. I really enjoyed her character and how well she played it. Margaret Robbie did a great job. She really has some range, I think. You think about Wolf of Wall Street, and I figured that was the type of character she would always play. You've seen her in some other things, but this is, she really adapted to the role, and I thought did a great job. Paul Walker Hauser. So I don't know if you know who he is. If you ever seen Kingdom, he was in Kingdom, and he plays her bodyguard in this. And he's kind of the same character as he is in Kingdom, so he didn't change that much. But at the end of this, and it's not a spoiler alert, but my favorite thing, they put the words up there and tell you what has happened since the movie, and then they show raw footage of a lot of different things, and they show the actual interview with the bodyguard. So when you look at Paul Walter Hauser, they did a great job of casting him, and I thought that was really cool. So I like that. You also think about this. This was Tonya Harding was like 23 years old when this all went down, when she was going to the Olympics, and this derailed her entire career. So however this happened, and I'm not going to tell you, but that ended her skating career at 23 years old. So a two-time Olympian, and because of the incident, no longer can skate. So find out a little bit more about that if you watch the movie, which I urge you to do. One other thing that came out in this movie, which I thought was interesting, they portrayed in the movie, again, I don't know how much of this movie is true and how much is false. We know the whole story's kind of true, but the details in it, because they put so much humor in it, it's hard to tell, what was real and what wasn't. But one of the points that is made in the movie is part of the reason Tonya didn't score as high with the judges was because of her persona. Everything that her character, her upbringing, the way she carried herself, so things like that. So they asked for fur coats. They want them to wear fur coats so that they can show that they're classy. And she didn't have enough money for her fur coats. Her dad made her one early on in the stages. But there's things like that that they at least say in this movie, that they think that the judges think the skaters should have this certain persona, about them, and that they're, when you're going to the Olympics, you should be representing America, obviously, the United States, and they felt that Tonya Harding did not represent the United States, and therefore they scored her that way, not based just on her skating, but everything else about her. So again, not sure if that is true or not. That is in this movie. I thought that was a very interesting part to pull out of there. And, that's it. I think I could go on and on. I enjoyed this film. I'm going with an 8 for all the reasons that I said. I urge you to watch it because it was very good. Again, the soundtrack was awesome. The acting was very good. Hopefully everybody else agrees. If not, let me know. Leave me some comments. I'd love to hear what you thought, especially, if you were around in the time when this came out. I previously did a review on Battle of the Sexes. And if you haven't seen my review, and not check that out, but I thought it was interesting because very similar. Now, I wasn't around when Battle of the Sexes happened, but I remember hearing about it afterwards because it was such a big story. So I knew a little bit about it. Now I'm reliving it through the movies. Another thing here with I, Tonya and the Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan incident. So I relived it through that. So I enjoyed it myself. So check it out. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. Kimmel'sIrishPub.com.